Welcome to this Reconnecting You with Others training on decoding the breath's language. My name is Remington Steele, the owner of Breathe with Rem, where I help people see themselves through their breath and be able to control and reprogram their nervous system. So, in this training today, I will be going over quite a few things um, in regards to the breath, what it is, and how to use it. I wrote a book, I authored a book called Breathe with Me, um, where again, I help people, I walk the reader through seeing themselves through their breath, their emotional patterns, their beliefs, their thoughts, and how it affects their immune system and their whole body connection. And so, this is just kind of a snippet. I actually made this just created this course before I wrote the book, and so I don't have any mentions of the book in there in this training, and so I just want to kind of throw that out there now that um, there's a book out there, Breathe with Me, that I wrote, and it really kind of it it um, it kind of goes hand in hand with this training because a lot of the tools I talk about we will be discussing in this training. So the class objectives today is I really want you to have and create a safe space for you to get curious and explore your breath. I also we also want to begin to tune into our breath's communication and and learning how the breath communicates to us physically, emotionally, and energetically. Also, we will begin decoding your personal breath patterns, starting to notice it. What is it? And becoming intimate with its understanding. We'll also practice techniques to reconnect you with your body through conscious breathing. This will come to a point where I'll leave you with tools to regulate your stress, expand your awareness, and build your inner trust for yourself through your breath. And so, what is the breath really? I love the breath. I really geek out about it because there is so much that the breath is connected to. And so I'll try not to go too far off the rampage and stick to the script, but I may start going on a tangent, and that's okay. It's just more information for you. So your breath is your first and most honest language. We learned our breath is our natural native language. We learned our breath before we learned anything else. It's the first thing we did on our own. It's the last thing we'll do on our own. Is breathe. And so understanding what the breath has been communicating to us since birth is so beneficial. Our breath, we spoke it before we could ever form words. And so really relearning our native language is so beneficial to our nervous system, to our relationships with ourselves and others. The breath is also number two. The breath is your nervous system's narrator. It lets you know whether you are safe, you are afraid, you are angry, you are present, you are shut down. Your breath will say so. It will tell you, and from there we'll start to get the ball rolling of what it needs for whatever it said you are. The breath is always now. The breath is not in tomorrow. The breath is not in yesterday. The breath is always now, and it's the body's invitation to come back to the present moment. I refer to it as your most reliable anchor to when doing breathing meditations. The breath is always your most reliable anchor. It's always there. You know, if it's not there, you're not there. So you have bigger fish to fry rather than meditating. And so it is the best anchor. You don't have to worry about a bell sound, and you don't have to worry about music. You don't have to worry about any of that. All you need is the rhythm of you in you. So the breath reflects and and actually, before I say the breath actually mirrors our internal state. Okay, and so and it reflects mirrored in different ways. So your posture is one way that it will mirror its emotional state. It welcomes or restricts your breath. So your posture is either going to help support it or not. Poor posture leads to poor breathing. So, for example, I'm not sure how much you can see of me, but for example, if you even do it within your body right now, if you were to slump over, almost like a cat back, but not so deep, and you just let your, for women, maybe your breast and bra, but you let your upper half, chest area, sit on top of your lower half. That right there eliminates a lot of your breath movement, because one, you're squeezing and fixing the diaphragm. I love the diaphragm. The diaphragm cannot move if you're like that. And so the posture reflects and mirrors the breath. And if you have poor posture, you more than likely have poor breathing. Your emotions. Your emotions are created by the breath that you breathe, based off of our emotions and our posture. So our breath creates the emotions, and the emotions reflect in our posture a lot of times. And so you'll come to see these three kind of playing a role with each other. And so when we breathe, we create what, and I talk about this in my book. When we're breathing certain patterns, it creates emotions. There's a certain breath pattern for anger. There's a certain breath pattern for anxiety, and so when we and that is, we'll get into decoding the breath's language with these different emotions, but certain emotions like anger gonna have your chest puffed out, right? But also when you think about anger breathing, it's very it's chest filled, right? So it's right here. You're not getting much air in, you're just stopping at the top of the chest. And so the chest is poked out. It's mirroring where that breath is. If the if you're depressed and your posture is collapsed on you, you're mirroring that emotion inside the body. Is reflecting, is not getting enough, it's not enough, it's not getting enough. um it's buckling at the weight, and so when you really take a look at the body, you begin to see the similarities of what it's trying to mirror and say to us in so many different ways. Basically, it's all connected. It's all connected. I say this in my book a lot, and in life, it's all connected. Everything is connected to the next. So, common breath patterns are fight, flight, freeze. I've offered in here fawn and flow. We'll go over that. Freeze is breath hold. So, you're holding that breath. That's a freeze. The fight is fast and high. That's the angry breath, right? That's that chest feel breath. Fast and high in the chest is what I mean by that. Fawn is shallow and a quiet breath. That's you falling into that depressive state. Um, Flight, quick, sharp, restless. It's always on the go. Flight can't, and this is anxiety, related to anxiety. Um, and so that would be the breath pattern of flight. Um, Something I want to point out with the difference between flight and fight, even the words are very close, and so they can get confused. They have a very similar pattern. So we see the quick, fast, same thing. Short, well, if with fight, it's only getting to the high part of the chest, so it's just chest feel. That's another way of saying short, but instead with anxiety, it may not necessarily just be in the chest, but it's still sharp. And so it creates it's a slight change in pattern, which creates a slight change in emotion, which changes it from anger to anxiety. And they are very different emotions that require a very different response. And I really stress this out, and I'm very passionate about this when it comes to law enforcement, because how you address someone who is angry is totally different in how you address someone who is anxious. They should be addressed differently. And if you try to address someone who is anxious the way that you address someone who is angry, you are going to create more anxiety in that person that's going to look more like anger than anxiety, and you won't know the difference. So it's so important that you begin to understand the breath patterns, use your breath as a tool and match your breath to others. We'll talk about it later, so that you understand what they're feeling. Because if you go and you manipulate your breath to be short, not necessarily chest feel, but short, you will become anxious. If you manipulate your breath to be fast and high, you will become angry. This is something that a law enforcement officer, a teacher, a healthcare worker can be able to do quickly and know the difference between a angry patient or community person or a anxious student or patient or community person. And so that is so important. I cannot stress that out, stress that enough, and we'll go over it. And I'm going to stress it more and more and more because it's so important. Too many lives are being lost because we don't know the difference between anxious and anger. And and sorry, it's not good enough really, but if we have this tool within us, we carry it with us. We have it every day we wake up. We have it all day with us. We have it when we come home. We never lose it. We have it with us. We should use it. We should use it. We should be using it. We should know it. We should be very fluent with how to use our tool, that is our breath, so that we can eliminate these confusions and be able to have different and better outcomes for people, because someone who is anxious deserves to feel safe before they have to respond or answer anything. And so that is something you can offer, because we naturally co-regulate to each other. So if they are if they're up here and you're not trying to keep yourself calm, you're going to elevate with them and you're going to match fire with fire. But if you bring okay, they're anxious, let me keep my breath calm, they will naturally bring their breath down to yours naturally. But the thing is we have to be aware and intentional in what we're doing and not allow ourselves to fall into their energy flow. Speaking of flow, flow can also, we're just keeping it nice with all the F's, but flow can be also love, and that's full, rhythmic, and smooth. This is beautiful. This is something you want to make your default breath pattern. I talk about, I teach the breath of love in pretty much everything I do, because the breath of love is full, it's rhythmic, it's smooth, it's inviting, it's that deep exhale, it's that extended exhale, it's that soft sound to it's that feel. And so that is the default breath that you want to try to go to and return to in all cases. So let's explore the breath for just a moment. Let's just take 2 minutes to explore our current breath. We won't be making any changes to our breath. We'll just settle right into ourselves right here, right now, and begin to just bring a bit of awareness to us as a whole, to our whole body, from the tip of our heads down to where we are grounded into our seat or into the floor. And once we feel that groundedness, we will bring our attention to our breath. And if you feel safe to do so, you can allow your eyes to close gently or soften and have a gaze on something just a few feet in front of you, and just soften your gaze. And now we will bring our attention to our breath. Not changing anything at all, just the simple awareness is exercise enough to the brain mind body connection. And notice in your breath what your inhale is like. Doesn't matter what it's doing, how big it is, where it goes. You want to bring awareness to it. Awareness is your first step. And after you've brought awareness to your inhale, allow yourself to rest into the exhale, just melting into the exhale for as long as the exhale will allow. And then on your next inhale, just observe the inhale and observe any bit of desire to pause at the top of the breath. And if there is desire there, allow yourself to melt into that desire and hold the breath for as long as that is comfortably possible for you. And then releasing it into your exhale, melting into your exhale, melting into the bottom of the exhale, and seeing and just noticing if there is a desire for a pause at the bottom of the breath. And if there's a pause desired at the bottom of the breath, just allow it for as long as it's comfortably possible before bringing attention back into the whole body, bringing movement back into your eyes. Your 2 minutes of exploration is complete. So that is just beginning to bring our awareness to our breath. We're going to be learning so much about it. And so we want to get into, we want to learn early how to get into a relaxing relationship with our breath so that we can explore it. So let's talk about the organs' connection to the breath. So the inhale nourishes the mind and body, and the exhale removes toxins from the body. So just kind of a quick overview of how the breath works and the pathway of the breath. We breathe in through our nose. And when we breathe in through our nose, actually, I know for a fact, I'm about to jump ahead. Just know that the organs connect to the breath. And again, that inhale nourishes the mind and body and the organs and all the things. And the exhale removes the toxins from the organs and from the body upon the exhale. I'll go through that in just a moment. See, and then the breath's journey begins. And so the breath enters through the nostrils, and this filters and warms the and moistures the air. Okay, and so that is one of the reasons why we want to make sure we breathe in through the nose, because the mouth does not offer a filter. The mouth does not offer the warmth. And I guess it moisturizes the air, but it doesn't offer those two things. And the filter catches all the stuff, the nasty things that we don't want to go into our body. And then the warming sectors allows the breath to begin to warm up before it gets to our organs and shocks our organs. The nasal cavity also activates the olfactory nerve, linking the breath to memory and emotion. So this is so important. We really want to be able to utilize using the nose when we're stimulating the breath to be able to link it to memory of a new pathway of recovery. Also, controlled nasal breathing engages the parasympathetic nervous system. It calms and rests, our calm and rest state, and refresh and reset state. And so that is what the journey of the breath is. I don't want to get ahead, but I know that so I'll go here because then I can lead into this. So when we breathe in through our nose again, in the sinus cavities, I didn't mention it there, but there are 3 nasal cavities, sinus cavities. And in those 3 sinus cavities, three on each side. It kind of directs the flow of traffic. So it allows us to take on even more oxygen through our nostrils, way more than we can imagine. And then as it moves to the back of the throat, of course, the breath will slow, because whereas it has 6 lanes of traffic, all 6 of them are meeting to the one flow of traffic that is the throat that leads down to the trach. And so from there, the lungs split into the left and right bronchial tubes, or the left and right lung using the bronchial tubes. And those big bronchial tubes then breaks off to semi-smaller bronchial tubes and even more semi-smaller bronchial tubes. When I host this class in person, and I don't have anything near me right now, but when I host this class in person, I usually have a tree branch, an empty tree branch, and I always bring it up, and it's beautiful. But it more importantly, it shows us the actual what it looks like inside our lungs. And so, if you can imagine what a tree looks like, tree branches look like when the leaves are all falling off in fall, before spring, and just notice how many different different avenues the breath can take to reach the lungs. And so at the end of each valve, the air begins to seep out of the bronchial tubes. And so as the air flows down into the trach, into the branches, into the bronchial area, then it seeps out, and what is waiting on it is these beautiful air sac cells. And so these air sac cells are called alveoli, and they are oxygen exchange for carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. And so this is where the respiratory meets the circular system. So as these beautiful air sac cells meet and marry with the oxygen, they begin to transform and transition into the heart space, where the heart, that is our furnace, turns this into very beautiful and rich blood that then pumps out into the left side of our body and begins to move throughout the body. So I have a question to pose. Please shout it out loud. I know I won't be able to hear you, but I just want to know, how many alveoli, these little air sac cells, how many are held in your lungs, do you think? 100, 1,000, 5,000, 100,000, 1 million, 2 million? Let's try over 300 million alveoli cover the surface of which can cover the surface of an entire tennis court. So I have this picture of pomegranate because it looks a lot like these alveoli. So the air sac cells look a lot like these, the inside of a pomegranate. And again, once the oxygen seeps out onto these air sac cells, they begin to transition and transform and transition into blood. And I had a fun fact that I was going to share, and now it kind of slipped my mind, but I'm sure it'll come back. But this is so important. The air sac cells, they're so gentle, and that's it came back that fast, thank goodness. They're so gentle, delicate pieces of life within our lungs. So think about in times where we think about anger, where we're having sharp, shallow, forceful breaths. Well, most likely, if we are more than likely pushing these very gentle air sac cells away from the air is waiting to mate and marry with. And so that can cause problem, because it eliminates, or it prevents us from having the enriched blood we so need. And so this is that is another reason why we don't want to just stay in that prolonged breath of anger. So the blood and heart cellular delivery. So how does this affect our blood and heart and our cells altogether. So, oxygen-enriched blood travels from the lung to the heart via the pulmonary vein, and the heart pumps oxygenated blood through the aorta to the entire body. Every cell receives oxygen. Um, every cell has waste of CO2 that is picked up for the return trip. So this is the importance of the breath, because as we will continue on, you already know that our breath directly helps enrich our blood, but also the fullness of our breath helps to move our lymphatic system, our waste system that picks up all the toxins and bad stuff out of our blood as it travels back up the left side of the body into excuse me, um, into the heart space, and and back into the lungs and out the body. So the diaphragm is your inner engine. This is I love the diaphragm. I was just in a training recently, and I shared how there's a few organs that I geek out about, and the diaphragm is one of them. The immune system is another. But this diaphragm is everything. So what happens with the diaphragm? Let me explain. It actually is a dome-shaped organ that is just above or below the rib cage and above the stomach and organs that's beneath. And so what ends up happening, the diaphragm is slightly up underneath the rib cage. And when we breathe in, it begins to, the expansion of the lungs begins to push down on the diaphragm, and the diaphragm begins to squeeze on all the organs beneath it. That's the large and small intestines, which helps with your digestion and elimination process. It also helps with all of the organs under the kidneys, the women's reproductive, the stomach, the bladder, all the things. And so it squeezes, that squeezing actually releases the lymph fluids that collects the toxins in the body. So think about this: when we're not getting a full enough breath to fully flatten that diaphragm, then we are holding toxins within our body, and that can cause a number of issues for health, physical health and mental health. And so the diaphragm matters. It is our inner engine. We tend to think it is the heart. The heart is not actually our our heart is it's an important organ. Don't get me wrong, but if the diaphragm does not pump the way it's supposed to, you won't get the oxygen to even pump into the blood, into the heart. And so that's why the diaphragm to me is more important than the heart. The lymphatic system and the detoxification. So I kind of got started with this and what the diaphragm is doing with squeezing out that lymphatic system. And so this is so important to all of your organs. We have toxins, whether it comes from food the food that's in our body. If we leave some food in the refrigerator too long, it will begin to mold and decompose and all this type of stuff. And so the same thing with our body. We want to get these toxins out. There's a few ways our bodies try to detox itself, and that is through the lymphatic system is the best way. Sweating, urination, using the bathroom, doing number 2 rather. These are crying. These are different ways the body tries to detox. And so with the lymphatic inside is again the most beneficial, and you can get a lymphatic massage. That's where you just kind of softly, gently rubbing the entire body, kind of waking up the lymphatic system. But sometimes there are times where we really got to move that lymphatic fluids throughout the body. They might be getting stuck in certain areas, and so knowing where the different lymphatic systems are, that helps kind of detoxify. So behind the knees, the shoulders, underarms area. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm not necessarily a lymphatic specialist, but you tend to start picking up certain things, and so there are certain lymphatic areas. I encourage you to go and find them out. I think in between the elbows, where else? The behind the ankles, I believe, or but and it feels good, and you can tell when you need it because you'll start feeling like heat and movement and stuff, and you'll know that you probably were backed up somewhere, and it's a good thing that you're massaging or rubbing it. Also, the digestive and reproductive connections. So, the diaphragmatic breathing massages the abdominal organs, everything that I just talked about. It also reduces cortisol, which disrupts digestion and fertility. So, if that's important to you, that's something to know. We want to reduce the cortisol because the cortisol also plays a direct role on our immune system, which is one of my other favorite friends. And so, we really want to be aware of the digestive connection and reproductive connection to breathing and to problematic things that comes with not breathing, which is like elevated cortisol levels. The exhale or the letting go. So when we exhale, we are releasing CO2, and it is carried back to the lungs via the veins and then exhaled out. When we prolong that exhale, we're really intentionally pushing out as much as that CO2, and high levels, increased levels of CO2 can cause. Hold on, I don't want to say that backwards, because actually you want to regulate it, right? You don't want too little CO2 and you don't want too much CO2. Too little CO2 actually will make you anxious. So that is where you're exhaling, but you're not inhaling really that much. So you're not getting in enough CO2 for that exhale. Because you want to keep it balanced. It's like good and bad bacteria and stuff. And then high CO2 actually creates, fatigue and different things like that. It drains you. Think of a carbon dioxide leak in the house. You get sleepy, and then if you don't get support, the sleep becomes continuous. But so you kind of can think of it in that way. So this is your body's primary method for detoxing, the exhale. The lymphatic really is the primary, but its final step is getting it out through that exhale. And so really learning to extend it so that you can fully let go. Also, so that leads to the long, slow exhales, activates the parasympathetic state, regulates the heart rate, and releases emotional tension. So this is so beneficial to someone who may be suffering from anxiety. So up to 70% of toxins is in the body, in our body, are released through the breath. And so that is why it's so important to regulate your breathing and learn how to fully, completely exhale. Also, this is just gonna mention, it makes sense why sometimes people have bad breath, right? Because if 70% of toxins is coming out of the body through the breath, then that will make sense. And so that's just kind of a compassion tip. These people is releasing toxins. Okay, so how does the breath affect our neurological networks? So the breath is the bridge. The body meets brain. So the breath is the bridge between body meeting the brain. And it's kind of talking to the brain, so to speak, from the body. Because remember, the breath can be involuntary or voluntary. And so if we are allowing this angry breath, because that is not our nature to be angry or anxious or any of that, then it is It's communicating that to the brain that, hey, I'm angry, I'm anxious. And so another thing is every inhale and exhale sends a real-time message to your brain stem, telling your body whether you're safe or you're in danger. And so understanding the breath patterns and what you're breathing, being aware of how you're breathing, you'll be able to kind of turn off or on or off that switch of danger. So our nervous system and breathing, it can either alert us to danger, prepare us for rest and reset, or put us to sleep or more. And so really understanding the breath and you to be able to use it as a tool is a benefit to you in all ways. You're not always overreacting. Sometimes your breath is telling your brain you're in danger, even when you're not. And so that's why we have to be aware of the way we are breathing. Also, I just want to take a quick moment to say, look at these branches. It's perfect because I didn't get to show you earlier, and this is actually what I was talking about. It's just faced the wrong way. I would have in our lungs, we would have the branches would be facing downwards. So that's the only difference. But you can see so many different avenues into the lungs. And so when we tend to think it's just one way, the oxygen is getting in the lungs one way and out one way. No, there are several different methods and modes for that breath to come into our space and be able to fill us up like a balloon that the lungs are. So let's talk about the amygdala and the emotional processing. So the amygdala is our emotional and fear center. It is directly influenced by our pace and pattern of our breath. Our shallow breaths heighten the amygdala activity, which creates anxiety or overreaction. Deep rhythmic breathing calms and signals to the amygdala better emotional regulation. So this is very important that we know this and that we're being able to use it to our benefit. So does your breath affect your memory? Yes or no? The answer is yes. It forced breathing increases work memory and reduces mind wandering by as much as 25%. 25%, excuse me, I meant to say focused breathing, not forced. So focused breathing increases the working memory and reduces mind wandering by as much as 25%. So that is extremely beneficial. It's almost 50%. It's halfway to 50%. And so it's extremely beneficial just to focus on your breath. And that's not including movement or making changes to the breath. That's just focusing on it, bringing your attention to it. So breath with intention shapes your brain. When you don't have to fight your nervous system, you can lead it with your breath. So changing the breath, I talk about it a lot, changing your breath to the breath of love instantly releases good hormones and creates a safety and peace within you. So intentionally using that breath is so useful in so many ways with so many different people. Two, neurological healing doesn't start in the mind, it starts in the body. And so what is the saying? I think and so I am. And so whatever you think, you are. Whatever you believe, you become. And so everything starts in the mind, and you want to start your change of the breath within the mind first by just bringing your attention to it and your commitment to be aware of it and make the necessary changes. Your breath, is your access point to change, resilience, and reconnection. The breath is gold. I mean, it's your constant anchor, is with you forever. And so it's something you can rely on more than anything else. and you can use it all the time. All right, so this is where we get into understanding our breath's language. And if this interests you so far, I invite you to stay with me and return with me, where we will break down each emotion step by step. We will explore it and more. Also, I have this training in live, so please stay connected. Follow me on anywhere, Remington Steele, Breathe with Rem, and see when I'll be hosting a live class of the breath's language. This is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is a free teaser, as you will. The full training really gets in depth. We offer, excuse me, I'll stop sharing. I offer meditations and some yoga training, even some activities where I'll bring my Mr. Scales out, which is my skeleton, and I'll show you just how much air we can hold within the body, and just how little we actually use. And so I welcome you to come back. I invite you to come back, and I thank you so much for taking this time with me to learn about the breath, to begin to explore the breath, to get introduced to the breath. And I hope to see you again. Thank you.